The All Blacks' defence of the Rugby Championship title gets off to the perfect start in Mendoza. My name is Mark, let's talk rugby. There was a lot of excitement in the build-up to this one in Argentina. First time that New Zealand were playing in Mendoza. Game was sold out 2 months ahead of time. The crowd seemed to be really up for it. Great atmosphere in the stadium. A little bit of bad news for Argentina before kickoff. Del Guy is ruled out, I guess, in the warm-up through injury, and Cancellieri comes in on the right wing. Then they almost get a dream start for them. McKenzie's on his own line, tries to a clearance kick, gets charged down. He manages to get to the ball first and dot down before Argentina would have scored what would have been a very embarrassing try for him. All Blacks, though, they settled quickly after that. It's only a couple of minutes later where some really good hands, and they put Dane Coles over to score the opening try. McKenzie, though, misses a very kickable conversion. We're at 5-0 to New Zealand. Then, they don't rest on the laurels from there. They're back on attack. They get a penalty, kick it to the corner. They try to maul it, but it gets halted, so they decide to spread the ball in field. Scott Barrett goes close. He's right on the line. And then Sabea picks and goes over for the second try. McKenzie again misses what was a very kickable conversion, 10-0 to New Zealand. Then we have, some real magic from the backs. New Zealand, they're in their own 22. They're throwing the ball around. Good involvement from Aaron Smith and Caleb Clark. They get the ball to the edge, out to Bowden Barrett. And then himself and Geordie Barrett, combine, exchange passes up the field, and then Geordie has a run in for the third try. McKenzie finally then lands a kick, actually the hardest one. The other two were almost straight in front. So we're at 17-0. It feels like the game's already over as a contest, and we're only in like the 10th or the 11th or 12th minute or something like that. Argentina then finally muster a bit of a response. They work themselves into the 22. They get some good change from Amal and get a penalty, kick that to the corner. They decide to go off the top from the line out, and then it's through the hands. Rooney, basically all he has to do is catch the ball and fall over to score a try, but he knocks it on as he tries to gather. New Zealand then win a penalty from scrum, and they're able to kick clear. And that becomes a bit of a theme in the game. New Zealand really being on top in the scrum. I think the group really helped them in terms of, New Zealand generally don't have a very aggressive scrum, but could see in this game they knew they were on top. The group was doing a great job against Sardoni, right? And they took full advantage of that. Generally, you see New Zealand, there'll be a solid scrum, but not like South Africa, keeping the ball in and looking for penalties. But on this one, they were just so dominant. Next then, from here, New Zealand, they put the ball through the hands again. Rico Ioane picks a nice line onto a beautiful pass from McKenzie. He goes over to score. McKenzie converts this one worth 24-0. Bonus point is in the bag. New Zealand just relentless from here. They win another scrum penalty, and Sardoni really under pressure in that scrum. I talked about him before the game, saying that, the lack of experience in that front row, at prop at least, lots of experience at hooker, but the props, not that much experience at test level, might count against him, but I thought it was going to be just around the field, but in the scrum as well. And nothing really going right for Argentina at this stage. Montoya gets pinged for being off his feet. It's close to the line, to their own line. They get a warning then from the referee for persistent infringement. New Zealand decide to go to the corner. playing with advantage after infringement at the maul. Smith then snipes and goes over to score in the corner. Bruni gets himself a yellow card after, it, was definitely coming. He'd just been warned, and then he does that in the maul. Mackenzie converts, and it's 31-0, and that's a halftime score. Into the second half, then, Argentina have a period of possession. Not really going anywhere, but they do manage to run down the yellow card, and then Bruni returns to the field. He then gives them a bit more go forward, bursts deep into the New Zealand 22. They're close to the line, and they force a penalty from the All Blacks. Gargo taps, and he goes close. Then we have a couple of recycles, and then Sardoni goes over to score. Buffelli misses the conversion, 31-5. Argentina finally on the board. New Zealand, though, they're not done scoring. They're striked from the back of another dominant scrum into 22. Mackenzie, nice little wraparound from him. Midfield runners, dummy runners really do hold the defence on the drift. And then Mackenzie puts Beauden Barrett over to score. Mackenzie misses the conversion. Doesn't matter really today in this game, like that he's missing so many kicks, but in a tighter game against, maybe next game against South Africa, if he was the starting 10, or maybe in the World Cup against France, those kicks potentially could matter. And seeing him miss so many is a little bit of a worry. His general play, though, other than from the tee, was pretty decent. We then have another period of possession for Argentina. They're making a few half breaks, but not really making that much ground. Jordy Barrett gets over the ball, wins the penalty for New Zealand. And, that was something from New Zealand as well today, was that it wasn't just on attack where they were hot. Defence was really good as well. Game then begins to kind of peter out a little bit. And I'm thinking at this stage, 15 minutes to go, I'm expecting a try from either team. As the clock runs down, I'm wondering, is that actually going to happen? Because it's not really that much action. But then All Blacks work it upfield, get back into 22. There's some good carries from the forwards. Then they go wide, and Mackenzie with a nice miss pass to get Narawa away to score in the corner. Great finish from him under a little bit of pressure. Mackenzie again misses the conversion. We're at 41-5. Argentina then win a couple of penalties. They're able to kick to the corner in the final minute. Decide to go to the maul. They're making some progress, but All Blacks seem to have halted them. But then Creevy breaks off the back. He stopped just short of the line, but was able to stretch out and place the ball to score. The try is converted, and 41-12 is our final score. All Blacks with a really great performance there. Argentina really didn't challenge them at all. Now let's have a look at some of the stats from the game. So tries, 2 for Argentina, 7 for New Zealand. Those 3 early ones just, ended as a contest, and then as they went through, New Zealand just adding extra ones on, and Argentina's tries never felt anything more than some kind of consolation, getting something on the board. Meters carried 346 to 430. So Argentina, a lot of kind of one-out runners and not really making that much ground. New Zealand, really good soak defence. It felt like they'd let them go a few meters, but they wouldn't let them make any actual real breaks. Whereas New Zealand, when they saw space, they were able to get the ball to that space and then exploit it. Carries 125 to 112, so you can see there already, like meters per carry, you're talking about almost 4 meters for the All Blacks and less than 3 for Argentina. So real impact from New Zealand from their carriers. Defenders beaten 25 to 22. Again, this stat can be, a bit misleading at times, because Argentina, they beat 25 defenders, but what did they really get out of it, And again, I think it was kind of that soak defence from New Zealand is kind of similar to actually Ireland's defences in some respects, where you're not trying to hold a completely solid line. What you're actually trying to do is give up a little bit of ground, but then be able to get players in there, compete at the breakdown and isolate someone because they're a little bit further away from their support. And I felt New Zealand did that really well today. Clean breaks then, 2 for Los Pumas and 7 for the All Blacks. So again, that kind of shows you that even though Argentina beat more players, the All Blacks were the ones that were making the clean breaks, and generally when they made those clean breaks, they were coming up with, real penetration and sometimes tries as well. Passes 170 to 183. So New Zealand holding onto the ball, especially at crucial times, I felt, and not really kicking it away that much. And it worked fairly well for them. Against South Africa, they might want to have a bit more of a kicking game with that one, I think, because, South Africa are definitely going to be kicking the ball to them and trying to put them under pressure and trying to play more of the game in New Zealand's half. Argentina not able to do that, but South Africa probably do have the cattle and the game plan to be able to do that. So New Zealand might have to kick more to, relieve that pressure and be able to play in the right areas of the field. We know that they can run the ball from anywhere on the field, but you don't want to be relying on that all the time either. Next, then offload 7 each. Again, Argentina not really having that much effect on their offloads, just kind of moving the point of contact. Whereas New Zealand, a few times offloads really helped them to break the line. Turnovers conceded then. It's 16 to 11. Again, All Blacks, I thought, were really good at getting in there to break down, competing, getting over that ball and turning over and stopping any momentum that Argentina were trying to build. On defense then, tackles 132 to 133, so pretty even there. Missed tackles 22 to 25. So New Zealand a little bit down on, in terms of tackle percentage, but turnovers 1-4 for Argentina and 5 for the All Blacks. I think that kind of speaks to what I was talking about before, where New Zealand were kind of absorbing rather than trying to hold that solid line and letting, missing tackles and people getting a little bit further into that defensive net, but not actually breaking the line, and then they could get in over the ball and win those turnovers. Next, then we'll have a look at kicking just a little bit. So 15 kicks in play to 18, so All Blacks kicking a little bit more, but neither really putting a lot of emphasis on their kicking game in terms of where they were on the field. I felt that the 3 early tries for the All Blacks meant that they didn't have to do that. So I'm not saying that they can't do it. I'm just saying that it wasn't really a game where they had to do it. Conversions then, 2 to 7, but then accuracy 50% for Argentina and just 42.9 for New Zealand. Mackenzie's kicking from the tee again wasn't crucial today, but it could be crucial in another game, a tighter game. Breakdown then, Brooks won 91 to 76 and Brooks lost 4 to 5. So neither team really blowing the opposition off the ball at Brooks all that much. Brook won percentage 95.8 to 93.8, so fairly decent from both of them. Mauls 1-5 each. Mauls didn't have that much of an impact at the game. Neither team really steamrolled the opposition in the mauls. Both got a little bit of change from the odd maul, but not really dominant from either one. Set plays then, lineouts 9 for Argentina and 18 for New Zealand. Lineout percentage 75% for Argentina. I felt that New Zealand got up and competed really well, especially Lords for them. Actually felt they had a decent game. New Zealand 90% is, it fairly good return for them from their lineout. If you're up around that from, having won 18 lineouts, it's a good day at the offensive field. Scrums 1 then, 4 for Argentina, 7 for New Zealand. one scrum lost for Argentina, where all that pressure coming from New Zealand's scrum percentage then 67%, or yeah, about 67% for Argentina, 100% for New Zealand. New Zealand absolutely on top in that area. Discipline then, penalties conceded 12-9. Those penalties, had a big effect, I think, on Argentina in terms of trying to get back into the game because they were conceding those penalties. That led then to the yellow card, and it felt like even though they saw at that period without conceding, they didn't have any chance to build momentum to try and muster some kind of response either. Next then, in terms of performance, kind of individual performances in the game. So for Argentina, no real standouts like, Buffelli, um, really didn't get into the game. I thought the centres, Moroni and Cinti, kind of got caught out of position a bit on defence. Santiago Carreras, a couple of wayward kicks from him and not really running the back line all that great. But, a game like this, it's not really the backs that are the problem. It's the forwards, and the forwards really did struggle. Gallo and Sardoni, especially in the scrums and around the park, not really adding that much either. I thought Alemano and Lavanini, not great from them in the lineouts. A lot of destruction coming from New Zealand as well, and not really giving that much go forward in terms of, open play. Also, Matera, Gonzalez and Bruni, not great. Bruni did have a bit of an impact when he came back on after his yellow card, but not really enough to, create a momentum shift between the two teams. Bench, not really a great impact either. Like Sanchez, when he came on for Carreras, a little bit wayward at 10. And, Creevy also not great when he came on for Montoya either. And nobody else really stood out for New Zealand then. I thought that, Bowden and Jordy Barrett did well with their chances, like linked really well. Amoni Narawa, a little bit quiet, but took his one chance that he got well. Rico Ione, I thought, some good running lines from him in midfield. Caleb Clark, again quiet, but you can see that he does hold that threat and he does commit defenders as well when he has the ball. Damien McKenzie, general play excellent from the tee, not so good. Aaron Smith, always a threat. You've got to keep an eye on him, and it's going to be interesting if we see with the All Blacks against South Africa, if we ever see Smith and Grant Williams, because they're very similar players, always looking for a break and with the pace as well to finish it off. Into the forwards then, Ethan de Groot, I thought, was excellent. Really is finding his feet, really, and establishing himself at test level now. When he came on the scene first, not having a great impact, but then the team itself wasn't in the best of form either. Tyrell Lomax didn't really stand out to me. Dane Coles, I thought, he took his try well, was solid overall. Scott Barr, I thought, did a lot of the kind of hard graft really well. Josh Lord was a menace at line-out time. Shannon Frizzell, little bit quiet maybe from him. I thought Sam Cane, though, had a great game. Maybe felt like he had to have a great game because, a lot of people talking about maybe he shouldn't be captain because if he wasn't captain, he's not an automatic pick at 7, but thought he was one of the standouts for the All Blacks in the pack. Did cover himself in glory after the game, though, kicked like a pitch invader and had to issue an apology over social media for that. So not great for him there, but in terms of performance, great. Artie Surveyor, like the guy, is just so talented, and I don't think he ever has a bad game from the All Blacks. He just kind of goes from being, his level, I think, is like bottom is good, and the top is out of this world. Nobody else can reach his heights. Kind of that's his what would you call it? His range, as it were. Never really a bad game. Replacements then, not a whole much, a lot from the replacements. Richie Mwanga, no real impact when he came on, and the others like the likes of Papi Leahy and Laulala kind of did a job without being all that spectacular. Then in terms of the overall for the team, so Argentina went so far behind early on, never really got a foothold in the game. I talked about their inexperienced props in the preview to the game. I didn't expect them to struggle so much in the scrum, but I did expect them to struggle around the park. And now they go to Australia for what is looking like a decider for who's going to finish bottom of the log in this one. And it's hard to tell like who was worse, themselves or Australia. So both teams are going to see that as a big opportunity to get a win. In terms of the All Blacks then, that really fast start, some fringe players really putting their hands up and finally giving Ian Foster good headaches for once. I think the thing about we forget about New Zealand is that they have been in poor form, kind of especially last year, but New Zealand being in poor form compared to almost any other team in the world is not the same thing. If the likes of Ireland or England or whoever are in poor form, they're losing a run of games and can't really find anything. But New Zealand in poor form is not the same. They win they lose maybe one or two games, but still they have that run of wins, and the depth of talent is there. I talked about it in the preview as well. The depth of talent is still there. It's just maybe that the cream of that talent is not as exceptional as we're used to for New Zealand. But there's still a lot of really good players running around there. And guys today put their hands up. Other guys against South Africa and against Australia are going to put their hands up as well. And suddenly you have, a lot of confidence in the team and those players pushing each other, and they're back to where they feel that they belong. But next time out, it's not going to be as easy against South Africa. Both teams are in good form, and it should be a cracker of a game.